Assalamu alaikum students. I'm Sabeen Amjad. I'm teaching you software testing. In this lecture, we will cover the topic security testing. Let's have a look at the outline of our topic. We will study security testing objectives, introduction, motives for a hacker, threat modeling, steps of threat modeling process, buffer overrun, safe string functions, JPEG virus, and computer forensics. These are the objectives of security testing. To ensure that adequate attention is provided to identify the security risks, to ensure that a realistic mechanism to define and enforce access to the system is in place, to ensure that sufficient expertise exists to perform adequate security testing, to conduct reasonable tests to confirm the proper functioning of the implemented security measures. Introduction. In introduction, we will study the definitions of secure product, security vulnerability, and hacker. Secure product. A secure product is a product that protects confidentiality, integrity, availability of the customer's information, and processing resources. Confidentiality is to keep something secret or private, whereas integrity means to prevent the system from unauthorized access. The product is usually under the control of system's owner and administrator. Security vulnerability. A security vulnerability is a flaw in a product that makes it feasible for hacker for taking control over privileges on the user's system, regulating its operations, and compromising data even when using the product properly. Hacker. One who is proficient at using or programming a computer. One who uses programming skills to gain illegal access to a computer network or motives for a hacker. Motives for a hacker include challenge or prestige, curiosity, use or leverage, vandalize, which include defacing, destruction, denial of service, and then steal. The first motive for a hacker is challenge or prestige. When someone breaks into a system purely for the challenge of the task and the prestige of succeeding, there is no intent of threatening. The goal is just to gain access to the system and consider it as an achievement. There is no intention to misuse the system. The second motive is curiosity. Hackers do not stop at just gaining access. He wants to look around to see what is inside. The difference between challenge or prestige and curiosity is a software system could have vulnerability to be attacked that allows a hacker to gain access. That is challenge or prestige. But still, it may be secure enough to prevent the hacker from looking at its valuable data. You may be able to access a system, but maybe the data is password protected or encrypted. So, you will not be able to view the valuable data in case of curiosity. Third motive for a hacker is use or leverage. Here, the hacker will actually attempt to use the system for his own purpose. The hacker may be able to better cover his tracks by using hacked computers to do the damage. Example is an email virus. Then fourth motive for a hacker is vandalize. Remember 3Ds, defacing, destruction, and denial of service. Defacing is changing the appearance of a website to promote the opinion or thoughts of the hacker. In the picture, you can see the example of defacing. CIA government website has been hacked and the text appearing on the website has been changed. Destruction takes the form of deleting or altering of data stored on the system. Denial of service is preventing or hindering the hacked system from performing its intended operations. Fifth one is steal. Most severe form of hacking is stealing. intent is to find something of value that can be used or sold. Credit card numbers, personal information, login IDs, email IDs. You can see their examples in these pictures. Next, we have more examples of stealing. In 2003, computer hacker gained access to and stole 92 million AOL login IDs. AOL stands for American Online. The list was sold for amount up to $100,000. Worth $65 million Bitcoin stolen from digital currency exchange. These are the two more examples. Threat modeling. Threat modeling is a procedure which includes optimizing network security by identifying objectives and vulnerabilities, defining countermeasures to prevent or mitigate the effects of the threats to the system. Review team examines the code to look for the areas of the product feature set that are susceptible to security vulnerabilities. The team makes changes to the product, spends more effort in designing these features, concentrates testing on potential trouble spots. Performing threat modeling is not tester's responsibility. Project manager is responsible for threat modeling. Steps of threat modeling process. Steps of threat modeling process include assemble the threat modeling team, identify the assets, create an architecture overview, decompose the application, identify the threats, document the threats, and then rank the threats. First one is assemble the threat modeling team. You can consider the following three options to assemble threat modeling team. Team members with software security background are required. Outside consultant is required in case of small team. In a large company, this person could come from a pool of experts who float from one project to another project. Then identify the assets. Think of all the things that might be of value to an intruder. In this picture, you can see different types of assets. You have to select the most important digital assets, which can be intellectual property, web portals, databases, etc. Third step is create an architecture overview. Identify the technology you plan to use for your software and how it is interconnected. For this purpose, create an architectural diagram. Identify trust boundaries between different technologies. In simple words, a trust boundary is the extent to which different technologies will interact and share information for the development of a product. You need to determine how secure it is. Identify authentication and authorization that must occur to gain access to the data. In the picture at the top, you can see people, process, or technology components are used to consume the digital asset. Fourth step is decompose the application. Application is decomposed based on the flow of data. The process to identify how and where the data flows through the system. It is based on data flow diagrams and state transition maps. If these diagrams do not exist, they will need to be created. In the picture, you can see different methods that can be used to consume or misuse the digital asset, like identify trust boundaries, identify data flow, identify entry points, identify privileged code, document the security profile. Fifth step is identify the threats. After understanding components, team can move on to identify threats. Each of the components should be considered threat targets, and you should assume that they will be attacked. Sixth step is document the threats. Each threat must be documented and tracked to ensure that it is addressed. Documentation describes what is the threat to the system, then target, then what form the attack might take, And the last is what countermeasures the system will use to prevent an attack. Let's have an example. There is a threat. Threat description is attacker obtains authentication credentials by monitoring the network. Threat target is web application user authentication process. Risk is high. Or attack techniques used is use of network monitoring software, and countermeasures are use SSL to provide encrypted channel. The next step is rank the threats. All threats are not created equal. You need to look at each threat and determine its ranking. Concepts involved in threat ranking are damage potential, reproducibility, exploitability, affected users, and discoverability. Damage potential. How much damage, physical, financial, integrity, and so on could be done if a particular area is hacked? Reproducibility. How easy is it for a hacker to exploit the vulnerability consistently? Would every attempt be successful? One in 100 attempts or one in million attempts would be successful. Exploitability. How technically difficult is it to gain access to the system or data? Is it a few lines of code that can be emailed around the internet, or does it require someone with expert programming skills? Affected users. If the hack succeeds, how many users will be affected? Discoverability. What is the likelihood that a hacker will discover vulnerability? 1 for low, 2 for medium, and 3 for high ranking system apply to each of the 5 categories. All values are summed and a value between 5 and 15 is achieved. Resolve the most severe issues first and then continue to lower rank threats. In the table, you can see the example of ranking of threats. For example, the threat is attacker obtains authentication credentials by monitoring the network. For this, damage potential is 3, reproducibility is 3, exploitability is 2, affected users 2, and discoverability is ranked 2. Total is 12 and the overall ranking of the threat is high. Similarly, you can see the other example of the other threat. Buffer overrun. In buffer overflow or buffer overrun, while writing data to a buffer, overruns the buffer's boundary and overrides adjacent memory locations. This is a special case of the violation of memory safety. A buffer is a sequential section of memory allocated to contain anything from a character string to an array of integers. Writing outside the bounds of a block of allocated memory can corrupt data, crash the program, or cause the execution of malicious code. Then data reference errors. These are the bugs caused by using a variable, constant, array, or string that has not been properly declared or initialized for how it is being used and referenced. It is the result of poor programming enabled by many languages such as C and C++. In this slide, there are two functions. MyBufferCopy used to copy the past value through pointer parameters. MyValidate used to validate a user password. Do you see the problem? The size of the input string psource_str is unknown. The size of the destination string pdeststr is 100 bytes. Now, what happens if the source string's length is greater than 100? You can see the source string is copied right into the destination string no matter what the length is. If it's more than 100 bytes, it will fill the destination string and then continue overwriting the values stored in the local variables. Worse, however, is if the source string is long enough, it could also overwrite the return address of the function mybuffercopy and contents of the executable code in the function myValidate. In the example of MyValidate, a competent hacker could enter a super long password and override the intended password validation performed in MyValidate, possibly gaining access to the system. So these types of bugs should be found as early as possible. Code review would find them early in the development cycle. Software vulnerabilities can occur where you never expect them. A user may not ask for security, but he wants it and will consider the lack of security a bug. Safe string functions. Microsoft identified C and C++ functions that were prone to buffer overrun. The usage of these functions in code require extensive error checking. Actually, these functions, while using the code, required extra validation of the parameters passed to the functions to avoid buffer overrun. You have to check the size or length of the parameters passed to the function and then use these values. So, a new set of functions is developed that is thoroughly tested. These functions are called safe string functions. Safe string functions are available for common operating systems, processors, and compilers. Benefits of using safe string functions. Each function receives the size of the destination buffer as input. The functions null terminate all output strings. The code performing an operation on the return string can assume that eventually it will encounter a null denoting the string's end. It means whenever you store data in a string or array in C or C++, you store a null value at the end of the data. When the string is read, the null value indicates the end of the data in the string. All functions return an empty status value with only one possible success code. The calling function can determine if the function succeeded in performing its operations. Empty status values are the return values or the codes that have mappings of the code to a human readable text message. These codes are available for both the success or failure messages. These are just like Windows error codes. Usually you do not have the understanding of the hidden meaning of these codes. But when you explore it, you come to know that what is the problem and why this error message is appearing on the screen. At the following link, you can see different anti-status values and their descriptions. Each function is available in two versions. One support single byte ASCII character and the other double byte Unicode characters to support multiple languages. Here in this slide, you can see the old unsafe functions and their new secured replacements that are new safe functions and their purposes. Next is the JPEG virus. The JPEG file format, besides storing the picture element, also allows for the storing of embedded comments. This field is normally used for annotating the picture. This comment field starts with a hex value of 0xFFE followed by a 2-byte value. This value specifies the length of the comment plus 2 bytes for the field length. A comment of up to 65533 bytes would be valid. If there is no comment, then the field is supposed to contain a value of 2. If comment is of size 65533 bytes, that is the maximum size, then the total length will be 65533 plus 2 is equal to 65535. If the value in the field is illegal, a buffer overflow occurs. Now consider how the JPEG file is read. It turns out that the code is used to interpret the JPEG data and turn it into a viewable picture. It normalized the length by subtracting off the 2 bytes before it read out the actual comment. If the length byte was set to 0, subtracting off 2 yielded a length of -2. The code was written to handle positive integers and interpreted the -2 as a positive 4 GB. The next 4 GB of comment data was then loaded. improperly overwriting valid data and program. If that comment data was carefully crafted, it could be used to gain access to the viewer's PC. Then Microsoft had to issue a critical update to all the components that loaded and viewed JPEG images. Computer forensics. Sometimes the data is just lying around for the viewing by those who know where to look. Internet Explorer's drop-down address bar displaying the history list of websites that have been recently visited. You can see the example in the picture at the right side. Google Toolbar autofill feature allows you to store information such as your name, address, phone number, email address, etc. so that when a blank form is displayed, you can populate the fields with a single click. The picture at the bottom shows the example of Google Toolbar autofill feature. Here you can see the reference of this topic is chapter number 13 of the mentioned book. This is the end of the lecture. Take care. Allah Hafiz.